Local 12.
Happy Halloween. I'm Harvey Smilovitz. Welcome to the Cary Automotive Sports Authority. We're all over the Bengals-Titans game. The Who Asked You gang breaks down the big plays or lack thereof. And we'll take a tour of the AFC North action. So buckle up that chin strap because we have 30 hard-hitting minutes just ahead. The question of will he or won't he was answered well before game time. Steve McNair was deactivated because of his bruised sternum. The Titans quarterback has 20 career touchdown passes against the Bengals, most against any team for him, and he has won 9 of 12 starts against them. Instead, Billy Volek gets his second start. Can the Bengals defense capitalize? Well, let's go to Marshall Harris for the highlights. Marsh?
Harvey, in a word, no. But it wasn't because of the Titans quarterback. Once again, the NFL's worst run defense is dismantled, and a mistake from Carson Palmer seals the deal late. 1, 2, 3, open! If it wasn't Halloween, that face might be considered offensive. Local 12 photog Jeff Barnhill was at the Coliseum in Nashville where Carson Palmer had the offense rolling. Finding Chad Johnson early and often, here for a pickup of 8. Palmer started the game 7 for 7. Shane Graham then cashes in. 28-yard field goal makes it 3-0 Bengals. Chad Johnson wasn't the only 85 that got off to a nice start. Billy Volek doesn't look like a backup here. Hits Derek Mason for an 11-yard pickup and a first down. Mason 8 catches for 85 yards, including 5 catches on the drive that ends with this. Gary Anderson, 23-yard field goal. We're tied at 3. After a Bengals punt, Volek goes back to work, hooks up with Ben Troop. That's 19 yards through the air. The drive ends with Gary Anderson booting another field goal, this one from 45 yards out. Titans take their first lead at 6-3. After going 3 and out, the Bengals force Jeff Fisher and the Titans to punt. Or do they on 4th and 2 from the 41? Punter Craig Hendrick goes full steam ahead for 8 yards. First down, keeps the drive alive, and with 2 seconds left in the half, it's 4th and goal from the 1 instead of a field goal. Titans go for it. Bengals bite at the fake handoff. Volek finds Shadmeyer. 1-yard touchdown gives Tennessee a 13-3 halftime lead. Titans doing just fine without McNair under center. Until the second half, Bengals come up with Big D. Madieu Williams makes more than a stop, jumps Mason's route and jumps all over Volek's pass. First career interception. Make that first career interception return for a touchdown. 51 yards to pay dirt. Bengals right back in at 13-10. Then after a Patriots 3 and out, Shane Graham with a 50-yard field goal for the tie. It's good. The game's knotted up at 13. Of course, that's pimp tight. Volek leads the Titans back in a hurry, caps off a 5-play, 62-yard drive with this 13-yard touchdown to Troy Fleming. Tennessee back up 20-13. Volek 21 of 32, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Speaking of picks, Palmer has thrown one in every game he's played. This one no different. Hit as he throws by Albert Hainsworth. Andre Dyson ends up with what was intended for T.J. Houshmandzadeh, returns it to the Bengals 28. And Chris Brown finishes off a 3-play drive with a 1-yard touchdown dive. 32 carries, $147 for him, and the Titans are up 27-13 after 3. Palmer and the Bengals answer quickly, though, on 2nd and 19 from his own 32. Hits Hoosh in tight coverage, and he moves more than the chains. 62-yard pickup, goes down to the 6 before he's taken down by Samari Roll. And then Rudy jogs it in. Just 57 yards on 17 carries, but this 6-yard run cuts it to 27-20, a minute deep into the 4th quarter. Same score with under 2 to play. Bengals on the move. Palmer to Kelly Washington. 3 catches for 55 yards. 16-yard pickup takes it down to the Titans 34. Now 3rd and 3 from the 27. Johnson with 6 catches for 67 yards. This one goes for 18 and takes it down to the 9 with under a minute to play. 35 seconds left. Titans fans praying for a stop. 2nd and goal from the 9. Carson Palmer trying to tie this thing up. Instead gets tied up. Tries to throw it away, and well, he does. Literally, Albert Hainsworth with the sack and forced fumble. Juqua Thomas would cover it up. Unfortunately for Palmer, the Titans' prayers are answered, sealing a 27-20 Tennessee win. Once again, the Bengals dig a hole and can't claw their way out. Unable to sustain the momentum from Monday night's win over the Broncos, they fall to 2-5 and remain in last place in the AFC North. Inside the locker room, we take a look at how this one slipped away.
We didn't play with poise, on either side of the football up front. We had 4 penalties in the first drive on offense, and we had probably 3 or 4 offsides penalties in the game today when we knew he was going to use the cadence to try to unnerve us. And, it's not very good. We got some young guys in there, but we get the young guys and we get an older guy at the end of it. So we got to be smarter than that.
Whether you're a second-year guy, third-year guy, a 13th-year guy, that's your job. And obviously the guys that are in in their 13th year. The veterans that have been in that situation a bunch of times know how to handle it. And, you know, I need to learn from it and get better from it.
We had chances to win the ball game down the stretch, but we didn't make the plays to do it. We just can't do that if we're trying to win. So, you know, just one of them games, man. So we had our opportunities. We can't say we didn't have our opportunities. We had plenty of opportunities, and we just didn't make plays when we needed them.
They gashed us. They hit some holes on us. And, you know, Brown's a pretty good running back. He's one of the top in the league right now as far as yards. So, you know, it's the same old stuff with us. You know, we still growing as a unit. But, you know, we gave up some big runs that hurt us down the stretch.
The reason I'm saying we got better is because we were able to climb out of it. We were down by 14. We were able to come back. But, you know, we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. There wouldn't be any hole to climb out of. We could have just, you know, just scored willingly.
Our game ball goes to rookie Kyle Larson, 5 punts for a 53.2 average, including one for 66 yards. Harvey, time to hear what the fans have to say.
Marshall, thank you very much. Time for you at home to pick up the phone. Give us your opinion. Which stat is most frustrating from today's game? 163 rushing yards allowed, 57 rushing yards gained. How about 10 penalties or 4 sacks allowed? Call 345-1212. Right now, that's the number to reach us. I want your vote. Now, well, wait till you hear the skinny on the big game. Let's toss it over to the voice of the Bengals, Brad Johansson. It's Who Asked You? Oh, Brad.
Harvey, thanks very much. Joined now by Richard Skinner, 1360 of the Sports Animal in Turfway Park. This was it. I mean, in my opinion, this was it. Now, there's 9 more games, and you're always going to have the positive spin. But this was a game that they should have won.
You're going to always have the positive spin.
Well,
that's okay. Go ahead.
All right. What is your spin? Was this it?
Today was it. You know, and this sounds so simplistic, it's almost stupid. But there is a huge difference this particular season between 2-5 and 3-4, based on what was coming up on the schedule. You had a winnable home game against Dallas, a winnable road game against Washington, and then 2 home games, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. You know, now even if you go 3-1, you're still just a 500 football team as opposed to being over 500 going into that gauntlet of December. You actually had a shot to maybe put yourself back in the playoff race, or at least for a feel-good season. Now you're a loss or 2 away in this next 4 for setting up for disaster in December that leads you to 5-11, and the old here we go again.
Okay, but everything is still a must-win situation, so you're still on that run.
Yeah.
You still get a chance to make a run. Problem is, have you shot your confidence? Have you made your team wonder about themselves?
Well, I think they have to for this reason. I mean, you know, still go back to Miami, the win over Miami. They have 1 win, and now Denver, after back-to-back losses after losing today, you have to look and go, are they really that good, Denver? Maybe not. Maybe it was the fluke of the NFL. You know, you see Arizona, which wins a home game against Seattle last week, goes to Buffalo this week and loses an egg. It's one of those things last week that maybe now you go, you know, it just happens in the NFL. Bad teams beat good teams every week in this league.
Well, I'll tell you what, these last 2 weeks in the NFL, anything can happen. Let's go to our poll question. I want you to address that. What's most disappointing to you? They gave up another 100-yard rusher. They only put 57 on the ground themselves. They have 10 penalties, or they allow 4 sacks.
Well, that's a good one. The 100-yard rusher is a given, so I'm not going to go with that. I think the 10 penalties, because that's something that is, for the most part, correctable and focus-driven, and I hate to say this, coach-driven, I guess. You know, how do you get another key penalty in the red zone, another stopper? That first drive, I mean, it was click, click, click. Everything was going very well, and then you have illegal use of hands that sets you back to put you in a spot where, when you get inside the 20, Brad, as you know, and anybody knows, 5 yards is key, 10 yards is huge, 15 yards is out of sight. You can't make that up.
And the Bengals were brutal in the red zone against Denver coming into this game. It's something that they had to correct.
You know, you handle the ball for 7 minutes to start the game. You have a chance to go up 7. I mean, everything's going well. You have a quarterback on the first drive goes 5 for 5, and you get 3 out of that. You can't have that happen, especially on the road.
Okay, let's go to your quarterback again. Carson Palmer is in. If people were going to say Ben Roethlisberger is about to fold, apparently nobody's told Ben Roethlisberger he's about to fold as a rookie. Carson's having problems with his offensive line protecting him. There's no question about it. His performance, your assessment?
You know, it's a bigger struggle through 7 weeks than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I would have thought by now things would have been better. But again, a lot of it isn't him. You made the point. You rush for 57 yards and only rush it 17 times. A, you're not rushing it effectively. B, you're not rushing it quite enough. And you pointed out the protection. 4 sacks today. It's just not going to get it done. So it's hard to look at Carson and say it's his fault. He still had them down inside the 10-yard line with a play that should have stopped the clock. Now, granted, his ball security on the fumble was abysmal. He's to blame for that. He needs to protect the football better. But, you know, how many times out of the 5 games that they've lost has he been in a position to make a play? And unfortunately, it's been a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I have a hard time continuing to point the finger at him. Nonetheless, he's still a 2-5 starting quarterback.
Do you think the fact that Pittsburgh ran the ball 49 times today for Ben Roethlisberger had any impact?
You think that helped? That's 32 more than today. Bengals, they couldn't have done that because they don't have enough running backs to run it 49 times, for goodness sakes.
Well, and they're loading the box. They're bull rushing straight up the middle. Richie Braham had some problems today. Steinbach is really playing with one arm. His arm is not getting any better, and you're going to have a difficult time up the middle all season long if you can't correct those problems.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where you say, okay, can the draft help that? Probably not. I mean, the group up front is good when healthy. They just continue to be, at one time it was the tackles nicked up, then it was the center, then it was the guards, now it's back to the guards and the center. You know, that's a hard thing to pinpoint and say, okay, how can you fix that? You really can't, because those guys, when they're healthy, are good players. We've seen that. The last 2 weeks, when they were pretty healthy, about as healthy as they've been as a unit all year long, they were actually pretty effective, but now they're banged up again and nicked up again.
Well, Case Faharn's in a cast coming back today. We'll get some x-rays on him tomorrow, find out what his status is.
Can Tommy Casanova play safety?
Kim Herring hurt the knee. Don't know how bad that's going to be. You're going to have more injury problems. Can we find a positive? Yes, we can. And how long has it been going into the years that you've been looking for a punter to actually be effective? Kyle Larson was extremely effective today, and Shane Graham really is as good as is out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, that field goal he hit was 3/4 of the way up the net. You know, it was a 65-yarder. That's how much he hit it. And Kyle Larson, you know, he almost downs a punt off a 66-yarder. And Reggie Miles is a great special teams player. He just didn't quite get his hands on that, unfortunately. You know, that's funny because you go back.
53-yard average for
right.
him
Well, you go back to early in the preseason. He was one of the guys we said they need to find a punter.
Right.
He's done a great job through 7 weeks. He really has.
He has kicked it in. All right, you're not throwing in the towel.
No, you can't, especially because of what you got. You got a losing team coming in. You play a losing team on the road. You play, you know, a chance to be the spoiler if worse comes to worse inside of the division with Pittsburgh, and you have revenge for Cleveland. You know, you have the next 4 games that are all winnable football games. Technically, you could be 6-5 as you head into December, which is not going to be good enough based on that schedule. So, yeah, there are a lot of things to play for. We'll find out a lot about this coaching staff and about these players that, if they can suck it up over the next 4 weeks, still can do something with it. It won't be a playoff season, but there's still something to be accomplished from this year.
Marvin has a method to his madness, but he's given his players off Monday, and he's given his players off Tuesday after a loss coming home to Dallas. You all right with that?
I am, because I think it's probably a group that's got to be a little bit fried. And sometimes, especially the nicked up part, you know, you're going into practice with not probably a full roster. It's probably best to heal, let them take some time off mentally, and get recharged coming back. You know, it's funny. Everybody thinks that it's such a big deal. In the NFL, a day or 2 of practice is all you need from a game plan perspective. There's no fundamental work that needs to be done for the most part this time of year, so I'm all right with that.
Well, let's hope they kick it back into gear against Dallas. Skinny, thanks very much. Harvey, we'll send it back to you.
Standings. The Steelers go after the last unbeaten next week. That's the Eagles. The Ravens take their first home loss of the season, now 4-3. The Browns have the bye. They're 3-4. And the Bengals are sinking. You made the call. Now the results. We asked which stat is most frustrating from the Bengals' loss today. 50% go with the rush offense. Another 36% feel the rush defense. Either way, it is disappointing.